Hi guys, and welcome to Trucking Along with Kiersey. That's me, your positive voice in trucking. I got a few questions from people regarding the manual transmissions versus the auto shifts. Which ones I prefer, and what do I think about having the restriction on your CDL when it comes to an auto shift. So, stick around. Okay, I was trained on a manual. I trained students on a manual, and about a year ago I was given an automatic, and I trained students on the automatic. I was terrified. First off, I hated the manual. I hated learning how to shift when I was in training. It was very not natural for me. I have no sense of coordination whatsoever. I can't dance. You know, my mom laughs at me. I dance like a white girl. I clap on 1 and 3, and you know, I just so trying to get the clutch neutral clutch shift, clutch neutral rev clutch shift, that was really hard for me. And it was funny because in my class of 76 people, I was the only one who never drove a stick. And we were all in the sim class, and I'm driving along, and then I'd like go and hit the brake and I'd stall, and I was like, what's going on? I can't even stop. I can't stop the truck. The instructor, he wasn't laughing at me. He was just, I don't know, I think he was amazed just at my reaction, because you people have been watching me, you know I'm not right on the head. So you know, after a couple days, he came back to me and he's like, how you doing? And I'm like, oh, I'm doing good. I'm just trucking along. And he walked by and he looked at me and he's like, what? I was like, what? I'm doing good. He's like, I've never heard anybody say that before, like in one of these classes. And I was like, what? So now every once in a while, if I see him, which doesn't happen very often, but I'll say I'm still trucking along. So that's why I added that to the end of my videos. I know maybe people think it's weird, but you know, it actually is a reminder to me that it wasn't all that long ago that I was one of those students in those classes that was getting frustrated. I wound up hating the manual, and I couldn't downshift. It took a long time, and you know, by the time I got really good at shifting, I continued to double clutch, which most all these guys, that's like one of the big things that guys want to do is, oh, I want to float, and it's not really a big deal to float. I don't understand why everybody makes such a big deal about it, but it was just my muscle memory came into play as far as the double clutching, and that's what I felt comfortable with, and that's what I did. So you know, after I was in the manual for a while, I was afraid of the automatics. When everybody was talking about the automatics coming in, they were like, you're not going to have any control, and you're going to go flying down the mountains, and I'm like, logically that doesn't make sense. Companies are not going to buy trucks that they're going to catch on fire flying down mountains. So, you know, I really was like, well, how bad could they be? I went out on surgery last year and I turned in my manual, and when I went to go start up the automatic, I didn't know how. And I know most of the trucks now, they have a wand, and you downshift and upshift by pushing the wand forward or backwards, and you move it into neutral, and your drive and reverse, your gears are in this little wand thing, and your Jake brakes are also on that stick. The automatic I was given was an international. It was a 2017 international, and it was a push button. And I went to turn it on, and I couldn't turn it on, and I couldn't move it. And I hate change. I say this a lot, and I don't think people really comprehend how much I hate change. But, you know, I went to start it. I couldn't move it. I went inside, I called up my fleet manager. I was so frustrated. I was like, I can't drive this. Please don't make me drive this. And he's like, you can drive it. You're a good driver. You're a smart woman. You'll figure it out. And I was like, you're not listening to me. Hallie puts up, well, I know Hallie puts up with me because I make him money, but it's just funny because every once in a while I call him up all emotional. I'm either yelling about something or I'm crying about something. That's just me, and he's gotten used to it. Most of the time he just lets me talk and listens, and just afterwards he'll say, okay, now we can fix it. And he talks in a real low voice and real calming, soothing voice. Oh man, I love my fleet manager. But anyway, I really fought it. I really didn't want, as much as I hated the manual in training, you know, I hated that automatic even more. And I was terrified that I wasn't going to be able to control it going downhill. So where do I get sent like the first couple weeks with that truck? Over Cabbage. Like, if you people don't know Cabbage, because all the truckers will, and they'll comment below telling you what it's like. You can see videos of it on YouTube. You're like at the top, and it looks like a rattlesnake winding down, and it's a 6% grade, but it looks a lot more because it's long. And you're at the top. And you know, one of my students who went out, I trained him on the manual, and then he went and got his automatic, and when he went down, he smoked his brakes. Not because I didn't train him properly, but because he's overconfident and he always knows better. So you know, he went down, and when he was on the truck, I would tell him, you're going too fast, you got to downshift, you're going too fast, you got to downshift, when we're going down grades. And he thought I was overreacting. So when he wound up going down Cabbage by himself, and he was going way too fast to begin with, once you gain that kind of speed and you have to start using your brakes, that much stress on your brakes could, you know, set your whole trailer on fire. And you're going to see smoke coming out. You can smell it. You know, a lot of downgrades, Mont Eagle. Every time I go down Mont Eagle, it's only 4 miles. And it's, you know, it's not even that bad. I don't understand. Like, normally you just put it in like 7th gear or 8th gear and you just ride the jakes down if it's a nice day. I mean, if you got bad weather, you downshift a couple more gears and you're fine. But so he had me scared because my student went down Cabbage in the automatic before I did. And then when I went down, that truck had 10 gears, not the 12 that the other automatics have. So I put it in 8th gear. I rode the jakes down, and I never even touched the brakes, not one time. Not once. And when I talked to him about it, his response was, wow, that's really impressive, that truck can do that. I was like, no, you just need a driver who knows what they're doing. Hello? So he's like, well, I was scared. I almost caught my trailer on fire. Yeah, because you go too fast. You know, and I've said in some of my other videos, you have to calm yourself down, and you have to slow down mentally, and you have to assess everything that's around you constantly. But so anyway, when it comes to backing, I'll be honest with you, I like the clutch better. I still feel that way. This is a different truck than my first automatic, because that one had some serious issues. The 2017 Internationals suck. So I was in it for 6 months, which really affected my pay, because even though I was getting a lot of downtime breakdown pay, I wasn't getting the miles, and you make more when you're driving. So it did affect me, but I still wasn't afraid of it. Like having the International, and I haven't driven a Cascadia automatic yet, so I can't comment on them, but driving this truck in itself, the 2017 did not have the creep mode in reverse, so that was horrible to drive backwards, trying to back into doors. You would buck, and like you'd put your foot on the fuel pedal, the accelerator, trying to go back a little bit, and it would like take off on you, and if you didn't tap it hard enough, it wouldn't move at all, and you constantly felt like you were bucking and it was getting away from me. This one is a 2020, and it does have the creep mode, and I love this truck. It's wonderful. At this point, if somebody came back to me and said, oh, well, we're going to take you out of this truck and give you, even if they said, we're going to give you another 2020 International, there's no point for me to go through the truck and remove all my stuff. And just transferring from truck to truck is like moving from an apartment to an apartment, and it just sucks, and I don't want to do it. And I already told you, I hate change, so, I'm used to this truck now. I love it, and I'm planning on keeping this for another couple years, and, that's just the way it is. My answer is, we like what we learn on. And you can't listen to other people when it comes to which one's better, because everybody's different. And you may prefer the automatic. Something else is, don't pay attention to their negativity. I've really tried to push on this channel of being positive. Well, that also goes to the negativity of just what they want to bitch and complain and moan about. Because people were claiming to me that they didn't trust their automatics, and they would shut down more in the snow, and they couldn't control the truck going downhill. That didn't mean that that would be true for me. And I've proved that it's not true for me. I've proved to myself, I've proved to my fleet manager, I proved to my student that wound up in the automatic with me. He had a PSD instructor, and other people he met in the terminal, that everybody tries to scare you when you come into trucking, and they'll be like, oh, Val's so terrible, and Wyoming's horrible, and you're gonna go into training and you're gonna get on forced into nights, and people purposely try to scare you. Wait till you go down Cabbage, wait till you go down Grapevine. I took my student across Wyoming so many times that he got back to the terminal and told our fleet manager, I laugh at Wyoming, ha ha ha. And he knows where all those truck stops are and places to park, and so it's what you learn. And I would imagine that somebody who learns on an automatic is not going to like the change to a manual, and somebody who learns on a manual is not going to necessarily like the change to an automatic. Personally, I do hear people say that they like the automatics in the local driving or in the congested areas like the city driving, because you're not constantly clutching that thing, using the clutch. And one of my students was like, oh, the clutch, that's 60 pounds of torque hitting back on me, and oh my god, my leg is cramping. And I'm like, yeah, same clutch I've been driving for 3 years. Give me a break. Go complain to somebody else, because I'm not taking your victim mode today. And so people say that that's great thing about automatics, but my leg muscles, I have Popeye the Sailor Man calves, and I never noticed. I never had cramping. I never had soreness or anything in my calves or my legs, so that wasn't something that bothered me at all. When I switched over to the automatics, I kept trying to do this and shift and hit the floor, and try to hit the clutch. It's not there, and but anyway, Personally, I don't care. It's a job. It's something that you have to do. I thought, I was terrified of the automatics because I thought I wasn't going to be able to control it. And then I realized, no, those were just idiot moron people that did not know how to drive. So don't listen to people that don't know how to drive. When it comes to testing, and this is a real concern for people, when it comes to testing in the automatics, don't be afraid of that either, because most companies are turning, at least the larger companies that are going to be training, the ones that are taking new drivers, are going to be in the automatics. So you should really stay at your first company for a year. And I know people who go to CDL schools that are private say, oh, I don't want to be, obligated to anybody, and I don't want to be stuck someplace. But the truth is, you need to get that year in for your experience to be able to get the more coveted job that you may want. And, a lot of people want to go local, but the local companies don't want to have to pay for the insurance to insure you. So they really want you to have a year experience. If you bounce around from company to company within that first year, you could be flagged as a job hopper. And if that's true, the higher paying companies will stop accepting you. This is just a fact. This is the kind of stuff that happens. So, I know people that did it. They went to 3-4 companies in a matter of 1 year, and then all of a sudden, the only places they could find were paying like 27 cents, 30 cents a mile. And then they're calling me up bitching that, they're not making any money. Well, of course, you screwed yourself. I think that if you really want the manual, and there are companies like Old Dominion, for example, that still use the manual, but most likely you're not going to get an Old Dominion type of job until you have a year of experience or more. Those jobs are in high demand, so depending on the terminal, depending on the location, it's possible that you may have to wait 2 years, not 1 year. But just think that if you test in a manual in the very beginning, and then you take a year where you're not driving it at all, and now you want to go get that job that's local and Old Dominion, oh, they call me up, I got to go for a behind the wheel test, and you go to test and you haven't driven that manual for a year, a manual that you never really mastered to begin with because you didn't do over the road time with it, you just took it for the schooling to pass the test, then you may not do very well. And another reason that you might consider getting the automatic first and not caring about that restriction is that when you test for the first time, you're already so nervous just because you're taking the test, and you're worried about the pre-trip, and you're worried about the backing and the driving and all that stuff. But if you get your license and you train in the automatic and you drive the automatic for a year, and then you want to go to Old Dominion or one of these other companies that uses manuals, it would probably be a better idea for you to take that auto restriction to begin with. Then after you gain your experience on how to turn and handle the rig and get used to the brakes and systems and things like that, we have to worry about following distances and, the length of distance that it takes for us to stop. And, in the beginning, you're like this. And when you're testing in a manual, you're really nervous about the shifting. And what people don't realize is the maximum number of points that you can get, at least when I tested, the last time I looked, it was like last year, was 5 points. Well, you need like 30 to fail. So even if you lose it and you recover in the manual, you're still going to pass. So if you've already been driving for a year and you've learned to swing and you're not nervous in traffic and you can change lanes and you have lane control and you're used to reading signs, then it's going to be a breeze for you to go and test in a manual and take that restriction off. But I personally think it's a bad idea to make it a point to go to schooling to test in a manual that you most likely won't be driving one for anywhere from a year to 2 years before you actually find the job that you want that's in the manual. And then, you know, you're not going to get practice on a manual before you wind up going for that job. You know, unless you can go to a driving school and, you know, pay to practice on their rigs and stuff. Especially if you test it, but then you wind up at a training company that has an auto shift. So really, you only got a couple hours practice to begin with before you took the test, because most schools don't put you out on the road like Prime does, or, you know, Jim Palmer, Will Trans. We all kind of train the same, where during your schooling phase, you go out on the road. So, say, even somebody that trained at Prime during the school portion with the permit, if they went out on the road with the manual, they're going to get a lot more experience than just somebody going to a CDL school that's going to get maybe 2 hours if they're lucky in a matter of so many weeks. And then you're not going to drive a manual for a year, and then you expect to get a job. You know, that's putting a lot of pressure on you and a lot on your plate. So that's my thought. Get the auto first. Who cares about the restriction? You know, take the restriction off later when you already mastered everything else when it comes to the, you know, the handling of the rig. You'll be a lot calmer taking that test. I thank you for watching, and for any of you guys out there who, well, I know all the guys are just gonna say, I love manuals, I love manuals. Yeah, okay. You all love manuals, I know. And you all want manual Pete's with big smokestacks. But, you know, if there's anybody out there that had the auto restriction on their license and then got it removed, could you do me a favor and comment below and let our subscribers and viewers see that everything turned out okay. So I want to say thank you very much for watching. Be safe out there. Have a very happy holiday season, and I hope to see you out there trucking along. Bye.